Just a reminder, the support group for the Quantum Affected is now up and running smoothly. If you need to find others who relate to what you're going through, be sure to check it out after the video at www.jynxeffect.com. Hope to see you there. I also want to announce that we will be having our first real-time meetup in Portland, Oregon on August 5th. For more details, visit the events section of the support group website. Now, on to your personal Mandela Effect stories, Chapter 9, Story 1, AG. I drive past a RONA hardware store every day when I go to work. It always makes me think of my girlfriend Rona in Florida, who thinks it's so cool that we have a hardware store in Canada named after her. I told her about this back in 2014 when I took a photo of it and sent it to her. The logo was always regular letters, RONA. Well, a few weeks ago, I drove past the store on my way to work, and I almost fainted. The logo had changed. The letter A at the end is now an upside-down V. What? I emailed my girlfriend Rona and I asked her how she remembered it. She said it was always regular letters. Phew, I wasn't going crazy. But then I went through the old photos in my BlackBerry phone to find the old photo of the RONA store I took in 2014. I was so nervous and hoping to find some so-called Mandela effect residue to prove to myself I wasn't going crazy. Well, I almost fell off the couch when I found the old photo, and it too had changed to the new way with the new letter, with that last letter A now being a funky upside-down V. How does that work? I remember clearly the way it looked the old way, with just regular letters. And the reason I do is because it always made me think of my girlfriend when I drove past it to go to work. I always sent her a silent blessing. AG. Story 2, JK. I have been experiencing shifts for many years. I have told people many times that I did not feel like I belong here and I just wanted to go home. They would ask me where home was, but I never had a clue. I always felt like I could feel changes or some kind of shifts happening, like some kind of wave came over me and my whole body would kind of vibrate. I would try to tell people about it around me, but they laughed it off like it was a joke or it was silly. So eventually, I just turned it into a joke and I talked about time shifts happening. It's been so good knowing that I'm not the only one who experienced these things. I've only just discovered the ME title over a month ago, and once I went through a few videos about it, I contacted my best friend exclaiming, "I'm not crazy after all." At first he was really receptive of it and agreed that a lot of things I was pointing out made sense. About a week later, I felt as if I'd shifted again, and when I tried to talk to him about it, he became very skeptical and started throwing out everything he could to debunk what I was saying. Total opposite of how he reacted a week earlier. We also work at the same job and change the setup of the merchandise on our shelves throughout the store. There's an older lady that works with us, and one night about 2 weeks ago, I was helping her with her shelves. I had looked at the 3 sheets of plans and had the shelves lined up and ready for her. When it came time, my friend went to help her and was talking about the plans that were on the sheet, but they weren't the plans I remembered. We argued for about 10 minutes on it, and he shoved the paper at me. It had changed, within only 20 minutes of me planning to help her. Then about a week ago, we were resetting the makeup aisle. I was being funny and calling out the silly names on the lipsticks. One of them had his girlfriend's name on it, his ex, I pointed out to him. Later, when we were leaving, he grabbed a Coke randomly like he always does every morning, and I noticed the exact same name there. These synchronicities caused a surge in my mind. I told him he needed to watch out because she was probably going to pop up and he needed to avoid her. I thought maybe in a week or a month she would randomly message him. Within 3 hours after we left, he messaged me freaking out about how his ex had just sent him a message. He's not as skeptical anymore. JK. Story 3, TP. Hi, I wanted to share this with you because what you post on YouTube has quality and merit. I will no longer refer to the changes as anything other than the quantum effect. Back in 1996, I found out that Nelson Mandela was still alive, and it floored me. I clearly remember his funeral. It was a major international event that sparked massive positive change. I was a huge follower of his and had studied Africa most of my life. After his death, his wife Winnie overwhelmingly won an election and brought peace to much of the continent. It was a terrible feeling when I discovered that this was somehow not the case and it had never happened. I was sad, but that beautiful man was alive and that just seemed crazy. I began to tell people about this, some who also remembered, and when I did, I referred to it as the Nelson Mandela effect. When the internet became accessible, I posted about this on message boards and took a lot of flack for being a nutcase. A certain semi-celebrity in the paranormal groups took my story to a more famous person and then claimed the term as her own. My overall goal was to raise awareness about the big changes of a highly unnatural nature that were taking place, not to become famous so that the person could have the claim, but fact of the matter is these changes were noticed starting in the mid-90s and not past 2000. I was mad because the life I was leading was gone. Wonderful things in the world for everyone were gone. Some people said that I was confused by a dream I'd had, but for a long time I had paperwork to prove certain things, such as direct contact with the Leakey Foundation, where I'd been assigned as an assistant to Cynthia Moss to continue the work of Diana Fossey with mountain gorillas. Miss Moss now is famous for her research of African elephants, having never worked with primate studies. A book my mother had given me as a birthday present on mountain gorillas was a prized treasure because she'd never bought me a gift that had anything to do with my real interests, and that book is now about elephants. So anyway, I struggled with the WTF aspect of these changes alone for years. It's really nice to finally see your comforting videos and know that I'm not alone. So blessings to you, TP. Story 4, M. One of the Mandela effects I started noticing years ago was the light I remembered of the world when I grew up in the 70s and 80s as a kid. I can look out my grandmother's window, down at my other grandmother's house, down the road, and I looked out the window so many times when I was a kid. Back 10 to 12 years ago, I kept telling my brother and sister that the light was different. I remember the colors of everything looking different when I was a kid. The world was shaded different. It was more yellow. It was more brilliant, but tinted differently. My brother thought I was nuts. He kept saying it was because I watched old TV shows and the colors were different. And then he'd say, well, it was because we used to use LED monitors and the colors are different, and now I can see different ranges of colors and my eyesight has changed. No, that's not it. Then I began to take note that the sun was white, not yellow. It was always yellow, and now it's not. It's as white as can be. I asked my brother, did he remember the sun ever being yellow? And he said no. I've asked so many people if they remember the sun being yellow, and they all look at me like I'm nuts. When I drew pictures as a child, I drew the sun and it was always yellow, but in our sky, it is white, and hot, and intense. It's 90 degrees here in WV in May. Our town is called the nation's air-conditioned city because it never hits 90. When we have a 90-degree day in the summer, the city gives out free lemonade the next day. It's a really rare thing, but not anymore. They had to stop a few years ago. It's now every summer. So a big one for me that I remember is the sun being yellow. The world has a different tint. It's white now. The world looks different. Anybody else have this experience? Thanks for all you do. M. Story 5, D. I have bunches of stories, but this one is good for starters. I normally only visited my hometown through one friend, and when I decided to visit and explore on my own, I found out that many of my friends' houses were inhabited by people weirdly similar, but not them, and claimed that they had been there for years. Then I went over to this girl's house that I used to date, and the whole house was missing, and some other house, even older, was in its place. My sister and her were good friends, and when I called to tell her about it, she didn't even remember her. A place I used to get reflexology at, I drove by every day, was gone, and a 100-year-old church was there instead. This was in early 2000. D. The world is a strange one, but we will continue to be here for each other, experiencing this now commonplace weirdness with support, knowing for sure that we are not alone.